8 years into my marriage, I looked at the happy little family my husband and son had become with the story's leading man, then coldly looked away. This was also the year I officially chose to unlink from the system. The erasure process began. I only had 1 year left. Just as I was looking for a quiet place to wait for death, my cold and heartless husband suddenly called, his tone uncharacteristically meek. "The kid misses you. Can you come home?" I ran my thumb over the rim of my cup and looked at the handsome man sitting across from me. "Did you need something?" I asked. "Leo, are you still not willing to give up on Ethan?" The man asked, stirring his coffee with a deliberate slowness, as if he were the rightful spouse here to confront the other man. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The whole world felt utterly absurd. Ethan was supposed to be the second male lead, but because of my interference as a transmigrator, Owen, the story's actual protagonist, had become fixated on him. When I didn't answer, Owen smiled. "Leo, I was playing with Benny yesterday, and he told me he could accept having another dad besides his daddy." I asked him what kind of dad he wanted. Guess what he said? What else could he have said? Owen's gaze was already full of mockery and scorn. Benny had disliked me ever since he was old enough to understand. He resented that I wasn't a woman, complaining that everyone else had a mom and he didn't. I remembered the fear and humiliation I felt when the system put him in my belly and suddenly realized just how pathetic my life was. I may have gotten 8 more years, but I'd been living like a ghost, not quite human, not quite dead. I stood up, not wanting to say another word to him. "Leo, stop clinging to what isn't yours. Give him back to me. Okay?" Owen said, suddenly grabbing my arm. I was so sick of it. I shook his hand off. "What's all the drama about now?" A familiar voice came from behind me. I turned my head and saw him, of course, the husband I knew so well and not at all. Owen rubbed his wrist, his voice a forced whimper. "Ethan." Ethan's scrutinizing gaze landed on me. Suddenly, I couldn't say a word, so I just shut my mouth and brushed past him. Why did it take me so long to learn that 1,000 of my explanations could never outweigh 2 words from someone else? To my surprise, Ethan followed me out. We stood there, a few feet apart, just looking at each other. He was silent for a moment before his voice came out. Calm. "What are you doing here?" "What was I doing here?" "I was summoned by your good buddy." "And what about you, Ethan? Why are you at a coffee shop so far from your office in the middle of a workday?" "Getting coffee." I heard myself give him that answer. "Right. I was also, you should probably go back inside." I cut off his hesitant words and gave him a slight smile. "If you wait any longer, the coffee Owen ordered for you won't be any good. Because after a while, the dregs that settle at the bottom turn bitter and foul." He stood there, not moving. I was the one who turned and walked away first. It was the first time I had ever actively left him, but it certainly wouldn't be the last. I sat on a park bench, watching all sorts of people walk by. I remembered how, back when I was really sick, I used to love watching the passers-by from the tiny window of my hospital room. Except back then, my illness had kept me sheltered from the world. I didn't understand how fickle people could be, or that the normal, healthy heart beating inside another person's chest, so different from my own, could change from one day to the next. A lover's heart changes, your child doesn't love you. It was the oldest cliché in the book, but it still left me lost and heartbroken. After sitting there for a long time, my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID read, "Ethan, where are you?" Benny called me and said you're not home. "Owen is coming over for dinner. You should go back and make a few dishes. He likes your cooking." I said nothing and hung up. He immediately called back. "Why did you hang up without saying anything?" His tone was heavy, impatient. I asked him softly, "What do you want to hear from me?" "Okay, I'll be right back." "Or do you want me to ask what Owen would like for dinner tonight? Just like I always had." "What's that supposed to mean?" His voice was surprisingly cold and flat, as if I had said something terribly wrong. "Ethan, just give me some time to myself. I have things I need to think about." The person on the other end was quiet for a moment, then agreed. "Fine, but be back before 9, or no one will open the door for you." After the call ended, the system couldn't hold back anymore. "Host, if you don't go back soon, what if the protagonist gets what he wants?" I was in a daze. My response had nothing to do with what it said. 086, let's unlink. The system was shocked, screaming in my mind. "What? You'll die if you unlink." You're willing to throw away this perfectly healthy body. It was true. If I had nothing left to live for, I would never choose to give up a healthy body. But I did have things I was attached to. I loved Ethan and Benny, but now one's heart had changed, and the other despised me. For the first 20 years of my life, I scraped by on the love of my parents, family, and friends. For the first 2 years here, I relied on Ethan's love to accept my unnatural body. Because I loved him, I accepted this deformed body and even begged the system for a child. But his love, though passionate, was fleeting. For someone like me who survives on love, I've been slowly draining those first 2 years of affection every single day. Today, that love quietly ran out. 086, unlink me. The sound of 086 pleading was drowned out by a noisy, mechanical tone. Host has expressed the desire to unlink. Connecting to headquarters. Unlinking successful. Erasure process initiated. System 086 requests a delay of the erasure process for a period of 1 full year. Request. Approved. Thank you, 086. The last being in the world that cared about me was gone, just like that, on an ordinary day. Tears I hadn't shed in 8 years streamed down my face like a broken string of pearls. As I cried until my vision blurred and my head spun from lack of oxygen, something suddenly brushed against my leg. I wiped my tears away and saw a scrawny little cat. I'd always loved small animals, but my illness had prevented me from ever touching them. I had mentioned it to Ethan when I first came here. He just frowned, and I dropped the subject. I carefully wrapped the weak little cat in my jacket. Can I keep you? A man and a cat could make a home. Even if I don't have much time left. By the time I got back to the Tang family house from the vet with the cat I'd found, the sky was completely dark. When I stepped inside, I realized how lively the house was. Ethan, who usually disappeared into his study the moment he got home, was chatting happily with a handsome man. And Benny, who always wore a cold little pout, was cheerfully clinging to the man's side. Oh, it was Owen. Seeing the three of them looking like a happy family, I was surprised to find that I felt almost nothing. It wasn't like before, when I'd have to go over and make a nuisance of myself just to complete the mission. I quietly changed my shoes, picked up my things, and walked inside holding the little cat. It was Owen who noticed me first. "Leo, you're back," he called out. His tone was so natural, as if he were the master of the house and I was just a visitor, which wasn't far from the truth, I guess. I turned my head and gave him a nod. Without looking too closely at anyone's expression, I went straight upstairs. Owen's voice was uncertain. Was Leo holding a cat? Ethan's expression cooled. Yeah, it looked like it. Owen hesitated. Benny's still so young. Having a cat around. Could it be? Benny, or rather Benedict, huffed. I hate fluffy things. What kind of man likes stuff like that? Ethan frowned, though it was unclear who he was trying to reassure. I'll go talk to him in a bit. I fed the little cat and set up his small bed. Then I sat cross-legged on the floor, playing with him. Even though we had just met, the kitten was incredibly affectionate. The vet had said that stray cats who have been hurt a lot are usually wary of humans. For him to approach me on his own must have meant we had a special connection. I thought so, too. My eyes crinkled as I smiled, my voice softer than it had ever been. Should I give you a name? How about Izzy? Izzy burrowed into my lap, letting out a soft, sweet meow. It made my heart melt. I gently stroked Izzy's bony back, afraid to use too much force. When Ethan came into my bedroom, I was cooing sweet nothings at the cat. Baby, look what this is. It's a string. Oh, you like it, baby? Ah, good baby. Come get the string. Ethan stood in the doorway, thinking that he hadn't seen his partner look so alive in a very long time. But then he thought of his son and finally spoke. Get rid of the cat tomorrow. Benny doesn't like it. The smile vanished from my eyes. The hand dangling the toy slowed. Ethan finished what he had to say and turned to leave. But then he heard a voice behind him, colder than he had ever heard before. No, if he doesn't like it, he can stay away from me and the cat. Ethan spun around, his brow furrowed deeply. What did you say? I said Benny doesn't like it. I picked up the cat and stood, turning to face the man in the doorway. And I said, if he doesn't like it, he can stay away. Is that so hard to understand? Ethan probably couldn't comprehend how his usually obedient and timid husband had suddenly become a completely different person. I didn't give him a chance to figure it out. Are you done? I asked calmly. Then get out. It was the first time Ethan had ever been kicked out of a room in his own house by his own husband. His face turned even colder. He tossed out one last line, if you won't get rid of it, I'll find someone to do it for you. I don't want to see it here when I get back tomorrow. Leo, know your place. And left. I stroked the pitifully thin fur on Izzy's back. I'm sorry, Izzy, I whispered, feeling a pang of guilt. I'm sorry you had to hear that on your first day with me. Promise it won't happen again. The next morning, I woke up early out of habit. I walked into the kitchen, where Mrs. Wu, our cook, was already preparing breakfast. Mr. Lin, she said, greeting me warmly. What should I make today? I can prep it for you. Whatever's easy is fine, Mrs. Wu, I said casually. Also, do we have anything a small cat can eat? Oh, when Benedict came downstairs that morning, he heard his papa calling from the living room. Baby. Baby? Come on, time to eat. Benedict frowned in annoyance and muttered. I know. What are you yelling for? But when he got downstairs, he realized I wasn't calling him at all. I was bent over, calling for Izzy, who was hiding from the unfamiliar surroundings. I didn't even react when Benny answered me and came down the stairs. At my call, Izzy hesitantly emerged from under the table. I immediately showered him with praise. Good boy, Izzy. Whose good little baby are you? Benny's face soured. Can you talk normally? It's disgusting, he sneered. And why hasn't that cat been thrown out yet? It's so ugly. I no longer cared what he said, but I was afraid Izzy would hear it and be sad. So I softened my voice again. Don't listen to that, Izzy. You're the prettiest, best boy. Izzy is Daddy's best little baby. Seeing that I was ignoring him, Benny immediately got angry. Mimicking his father, he spoke to me with arrogance. I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? The noise hurt my ears. I turned my head, my face cold. You're being loud. Can you shut up? You're scaring my cat. Being yelled at by me for the first time. Benny's eyes widened in disbelief. You yelled at me? I looked away, annoyed, unwilling to look at the child any longer. Whatever. I'll just pretend giving birth to him was another emergency surgery. No matter how much Benny acted like his father, he was still just a 6-year-old. After I said something so harsh, he was completely at a loss. Tears welled up in his eyes. But Benny was still stubborn. I'm gonna tell Daddy you bullied me. I'm gonna make him throw your cat in the trash. The child had always been like this, used to being the center of the universe. I lost the last of my patience, picked up my cat and headed upstairs. As I passed the furious Benny, I unconsciously muttered my thoughts out loud. So annoying. Benny couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out crying with a loud wah. Chaos erupted downstairs. I walked into my bedroom and closed the door. Eventually, Ethan came downstairs and things quieted down. A little while later, there was a knock on my door. Ethan stood there, his face cold, looking at me as I sat engrossed in petting my cat. Go talk to Benny. Apologize to him. I looked up with no intention of answering his demand. Let's get a divorce. Ethan sighed. What is it this time? Is it that hard for you to apologize to Benny? Or is it because of this cat? Leo, you're an adult. Stop being so childish. I expected this reaction, so I wasn't in a hurry to explain. I presented my case calmly and sincerely. When we got married, you said you'd give me a settlement if I ever wanted a divorce, and we'd part on good terms. Does that offer still stand? Ethan didn't take me seriously, but he was tired of my theatrics, so he played along. It stands. If you really want to leave, I'll add more money to the card I gave you. If you run out, just ask me for more. Ethan thought that after he said this, I would feel cornered and obediently go downstairs to apologize to Benny, just like every other time we fought. If my apology was sincere enough, Ethan thought, he might even consider my request to keep the cat. After all these years of marriage, he had rarely seen his husband smile so happily and freely. But he should probably pick out a prettier, purebred cat for him. The one he brought home was too thin and ugly. It would be easier just to get a new one. Okay. What? Ethan snapped back to reality and looked at his husband. I said, okay. I stood up, holding the cat. I hope you can give me some time. I'll move out as soon as I find a new place. In the meantime, find a time when you're free so we can go get the divorce papers. Ethan's patience ran out, and he looked agitated. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Benny is your son too. Don't you care about him at all? I don't. I stroked the cat, feeling calmer and more detached than ever before. Ethan's perpetually stern expression changed. He still didn't believe I had suddenly let everything go. So you're just going to abandon me and our child to go live on your own? Leo, are you cheating on me? I'd never heard him use such a sarcastic tone or make such a petty accusation. I looked up, slightly surprised. Of course not. Ethan's composure slipped. He stared at me intently. I continued, I just don't want to waste any more time on you two. Our marriage was one of convenience, with no feelings involved. The child isn't close to me now. There's no reason for me to stay here anymore. Ethan repeated my words, one by one. No reason to stay? I looked into his dark, inscrutable eyes and repeated, just as deliberately, that's right, none. That day, Ethan just told me to think it over carefully, and I began my housing search in earnest. With enough money, finding a suitable place was quick. I saw a place once, liked it and paid for it. All that was left was the divorce and packing up Izzy's things. But Ethan suddenly seemed to become incredibly busy. I wouldn't see him all day. When I texted him, he'd always reply that he was busy and we'd talk when he got back. So I decided to just move out first. It didn't matter if we couldn't get the divorce finalized. I'd be gone in a year anyway. As I was packing Izzy's things, Benny walked in. The child had been sulking for days, refusing to say a single word to his papa. He'd been planning to unleash all his frustrations when his papa finally came to coax him. But after waiting for so long, all he got was an increasingly cold house and a papa who treated him more and more like he was invisible. He was still just a child. Even if his views had been twisted by certain people, deep down he couldn't let go of his own father. As it happened, his school had a parent-teacher conference coming up. His papa used to take his conferences very seriously, always treating them with great importance. Although Benny had thrown a tantrum before and said he wanted someone else to go, he thought that if his papa made up with him this time, he could let him come and hear about how well he was doing. Hey, we have a parent-teacher conference. Are you going? I was packing the cat's toys and other things. Without turning around, I answered quickly, no. Ask your dad to go. If he's busy, ask your grandparents or your aunt. Or you could even ask your Uncle Owen. Benny stood frozen in place, in disbelief. I finished packing, picked up the cat, and grabbed my bag to leave. Benny grabbed my sleeve, trying to stop me. Where are you going? I looked down at the child, my feelings for him now completely different. I used to love and dote on him because of the mission and the very real pain of childbirth I had endured. But now, the stronger emotions I felt were annoyance and indifference. To be honest, he wasn't really mine and Ethan's child, just a packet of data implanted with the Tang family's genetic code. And every time I looked at this child, I was reminded of the fact that I was no longer a normal human, but a freak. So I told the boy, I'm divorcing your dad, and I'm moving out now. From now on, you can pretend you never had me as a father. Ethan hadn't dared to go home for days. The memory of Leo's calm, resolute expression was enough to make him fall apart. For 6 years, he had kept that secret buried in his heart. 8 years had been long enough to make him believe, deep down, that Leo would never leave him. But Leo's sudden change and unwavering resolve sent a wave of panic through him. It felt as if the secret that had bound them together was about to disappear. In his dreams, 1,000 times over, the secret would vanish, and Leo could become his real husband. But the reality was that the secret was gone, and Leo was leaving him. Ethan's heart throbbed with a pain so sharp he clutched his hair, unable to bear it. Just then, his phone rang. It wasn't the special ringtone he'd set for Leo. Ethan answered without looking at the caller ID. A child's breathless sobbing came from the other end. Ethan's voice turned serious. Benny, what's wrong? The child just kept crying, unable to speak. Mrs. Wu took the phone and explained, Mr. Tang, Mr. Lin said he was moving out today. Benny won't stop crying. Could you please come home? Ethan hung up and rushed back. Seeing the empty house and Benny, who had cried himself nearly unconscious, Ethan's heart turned to ice. Leo, you are so cruel. You could even abandon your own child. Daddy, are you really going to divorce Papa? Benny sobbed, asking the father he idolized, hoping to hear a no. But Ethan just knelt down and patted Benny's back comfortingly. Benny's sobs grew louder. No, please, Daddy. I promise I won't hate Papa anymore. Just make him come back. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Ethan still didn't speak. He just silently hugged his son. Son, we have no bargaining chips left to keep your Papa here. He's so ruthless. He can walk away from 8 years of a relationship without a second thought. What can we do? Benny cried himself to sleep. But in the middle of the night, he developed a high fever. Ethan rushed Benny to the hospital. He hesitated for a moment over his contact list but couldn't bring himself to make the call. It was late. Ethan had to stay with Benny at the hospital alone. Even with all the perks of the hospital's VIP service, Ethan felt a profound exhaustion. The next morning, his mother, Linda, arrived at the hospital as soon as she heard the news. The moment she walked in, she cried out in distress, "Oh, my sweet grandson." Ethan, his eyes bloodshot, looked up at his mother. Benny called out weakly, "Grandma." Linda was both heartbroken and furious. She directed her anger at her son. How could Leo let this happen? I told you from the beginning, a man can't take proper care of a child. Why did you insist on marrying him? Where is he now? Benny's lip quivered, his voice trembling. Papa left. He doesn't want Daddy and me anymore. Linda frowned. What? Ethan rubbed his temples, his head throbbing. He wants a divorce. That set Linda off even more. He should have divorced you long ago. He wasted so much of my son's time and took so much money. Before Linda could finish her tirade, Benny started crying hysterically again. Linda panicked. Oh, sweetie, don't cry. Grandma will find you a pretty new mommy. Okay? Didn't you want a mommy? Benny screamed at the top of his lungs. I don't want one. I don't. I just want my Papa. I want him. The noise was giving Ethan a headache. He walked out of the room. In the hallway, he dialed the number pinned to the top of his contacts. Hello? A light, carefree voice came from the other end, instantly silencing the chaos in his mind. It's me. Ethan? Do you need something? Are you free to get the divorce finalized? The words were so painful Ethan almost wanted to laugh. Benny's sick. He wants to see you. Can you come see him? I'm begging you. There was silence on the other end for a few minutes. If that's all, then let's just forget it. My cat is sick too. Can't get away. Ethan forced the words out. He's your son. The other end went silent again before finally tearing away the last shred of decency. But did you know that when I gave birth to him, I honestly wanted to die and take him with me? Ethan hung up and buried his face in his hands. He knew. How could he not know? Leo didn't like him and he didn't like the child they had together. If it weren't for, after returning from the hospital, Benny became withdrawn and gloomy. Every day he would cling to Ethan and ask when his Papa was coming back. When Ethan couldn't give him an answer, Benny would cry. Finally, father and son couldn't take it anymore and made the call. Hello? Didn't I say not to call me unless it was about the divorce? The moment he heard his Papa's voice, Benny's own voice choked with tears. Papa. Benny? Benny clutched the phone and started crying. Papa, it's me, Benny. Can you please come back? I promise I'll be good. The child was crying his heart out, but hearing it made me want to laugh. Benny, didn't you hate it when I called you that? And didn't you always want a mom? Why are you thinking about your Papa now? Benny was hurt and miserable. No, that's not true, Papa. I like it when you call me Benny, and I don't want a mom anymore. I want you. My voice remained calm. You want a Papa? What about Uncle Owen? Don't you and your dad both like him? How about we make him your new Papa? Ethan couldn't listen anymore and took the phone. Leo, don't talk to the child like that. I knew I had gone too far. After 8 years of entanglement, how could my heart be completely free of resentment and anger? Let's talk, Ethan. In the coffee shop, I saw Ethan and almost didn't recognize him. The man's head was bowed, his usual stern and rigid posture gone. His clothes were slightly disheveled, a far cry from the self-disciplined, proper man he used to be. You're here. I ordered your favorite. I sat down and saw that the drink on the table was indeed exactly to my taste. Did you bring your ID? Since you have time now. I tore up the marriage certificate. What? I was surprised, then stood up to leave. In that case, we have nothing to talk about. It just meant I'd be widowed instead of divorced. Either way, in a year, none of this would be my problem anymore. Leo, is your mission over? I froze, turning back to look at the man I'd shared a bed with for 8 years. My eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. What do you mean? Ethan lifted his eyes, his gaze cold. Your transmigration mission. Is it over? In that instant, my world shattered. After a long moment, I managed to force out a few words. When did you know? 6 years ago. 6 years ago. The year Benny was born, the year we got married. No wonder. So his strange behavior toward me back then was because he had discovered my identity as a transmigrator. But what did it matter now? It was too late. I closed my eyes, forcing back the tears that threatened to fall. Yes, it's over. The mission was over. We were over. I stumbled as I pushed open the coffee shop door, wanting only to escape back to my little apartment. But Ethan chased after me and wrapped his arms around me from behind. I flinched, a visceral reaction, and couldn't stop myself from screaming, "Get off me! Don't touch me!" Ethan didn't let go, his voice a soft, desperate plea in my ear. Leo, please calm down." My body trembled as I pried his fingers off one by one and turned to face him. You knew who I was. Were you toying with me for these past 6 years? Was this your revenge? Ethan lowered his head as if he were being scolded. No, I was just scared. I was afraid you would leave once your mission was over. I don't want to be without you. My lips trembled, a lump in my throat making it impossible to speak. He didn't want to lose me, so he neglected me for 6 years. He didn't want to lose me, so he let others, even our own child, bully me for 6 years. I wanted so badly to grab him by the collar and scream. Do you have any idea that once my mission was complete, I could have stayed in this world with a healthy body forever? Do you know that I'm all alone no matter which world I'm in? Do you know how much I longed for someone to love me? If he had known just one of those things, I wouldn't be dying. But with one simple, airy phrase, he was scared. I was condemned to the 6 years that ultimately led me to despair. Go. Just go. I don't want to see you. My head throbbed with a dull pain. I pushed the man away and turned to leave. But Ethan grabbed me again. Leo, please don't go. It wasn't a request. It was an order. He lifted me into his arms and carried me toward his car. I didn't have an ounce of strength left to resist. Because in this final year, my body was slowly breaking down. That feeling of life slowly slipping away had finally returned to me. Benny was thrilled to see me back, rushing over to hug me. I stumbled from the impact but didn't open my arms to hug him back. Ethan took off his suit jacket, his eyes filled with the same tenderness they held when we first met. Are you hungry? You only had coffee. You haven't eaten anything. I refused to look at him, my face a tight mask. I don't want to eat here. Take me back. Ethan took my bag and set it aside, then forcibly took off my coat and hung it up. If you don't want to eat at home, where do you want to eat? And don't say things like take me back anymore. Okay? You're home now, so just stay here. I looked him straight in the eye and said, word for word, this is not my home. Benny's lip quivered. He wanted to cry but didn't dare. Ethan, however, had a much stronger constitution. He actually leaned in and kissed the corner of my mouth. Your husband and your child are here. If this isn't your home, where is? The spot he had kissed felt disgusting. I pulled a tissue from my pocket and scrubbed at it fiercely until my skin was raw. But I was a sick man and I couldn't win against him. So I sat down and rested, figuring I'd just wait for them to fall asleep and leave in the middle of the night. But I never expected that Ethan would want to sleep in the same room as me. For the past 6 years, he had rarely slept in the same room unless he was drunk or on certain holidays and anniversaries. So when I saw him walk in, I was completely stunned. What are you doing? Ethan was wearing a black bathrobe, his hair slightly damp, revealing strong, well-defined calves. What's wrong? Isn't it normal for me to come to bed with you? Without another word, he got into my bed, and the space around me instantly became cramped. The scent of Ethan enveloped me, and all I felt was disgust. Get out. Ethan acted as if he hadn't heard me, grabbing my ankle and pulling me closer. Leo, we're still married. Do I need to remind you of that? I struggled, pushing against his chest, my voice sharp. We're getting a divorce. You can't do this to me. My words only seemed to make him more frantic. Soon, my clothes were in tatters. Leo, my sweet boy, we're not getting a divorce. We'll have a second child, and our family of 4 will live happily ever after. I don't want to. Don't you like Benny? Then let's have another one, a good, obedient one. Okay? We'll let that one stay with you all the time, and we'll send Benny to my mother's. From now on, you'll never have to see anyone you don't like again. Okay? I don't want it. Ethan, I don't want it. You do. You want this, baby. You love me so much. Why wouldn't you want this? A heart-wrenching sob drowned out everything I wanted to say. Through the long night, I was once again forced to confront just how weak, useless, and deformed of a monster I was. By the end, I had cried myself dry. But Ethan still had the energy to hold me, his body tangled with mine. When I could no longer cry, I started to laugh. A soft, quiet laugh. Ethan froze, holding me tighter, a flicker of unease in his eyes. Leo. I leaned in close to Ethan's ear, not because I wanted to be near him, but because my voice was so hoarse I could only whisper. Ethan, did you know? I can't have any more children. You want to use a baby to keep me? Not a chance. You can never keep me now. After saying that, I was completely spent and fell into a dead sleep. When I woke up the next morning, Ethan was already dressed and waiting by my bed. Leo, get up. We're going to the hospital for a checkup today. A checkup? It had to be because of what I'd said last night. I obediently got up and dressed. Fine, check away. The result would be the same regardless. The results for a VIP client came back quickly. They clearly stated that I was healthy and normal in every respect. Ethan let out a sigh of relief and hugged me. As long as you're healthy. You scared me to death last night. I let out a cold laugh but didn't respond. Ethan affectionately stroked my hair, his voice dripping with honey. Even if you really can't have more children, it doesn't matter. As long as you're healthy everywhere else, that's all that matters. You care so much about me, but why do I find it so disgusting? I tilted my head, my face a mask of innocence. Ethan didn't speak, just leaned in to kiss me again. I barely dodged it, my mood gone. Get out. From that day on, Ethan put me under house arrest. He even brought Izzy back from my neighbor's place. My days consisted of silently holding my cat while listening to Benny's chatter and Ethan's sweet nothings. As the days passed, I grew thinner and thinner. Ethan was frantic, taking me to see doctor after doctor. But it was useless. No matter how good the doctor, my physical condition was always the same. Healthy, normal. With 4 months left, I finally saw Owen again. The once refined and gentle-looking man was now a disheveled mess. He looked almost as haggard as I did. He won't see me anymore, and he pulled all the funding for my family's company. Are you satisfied now? I stroked Izzy, who had become as quiet as I was, and said nothing. Owen became hysterical. Leo, say something. I asked if you're satisfied. What do you want me to say? That I'm satisfied? Or that I'm sorry I stole your Ethan? I looked at him earnestly, my tone sincere. What do you want to hear? I'll say whatever you want. After all, my time was short. I didn't want to leave full of resentment. The hysteria on Owen's face froze, as if he didn't know what to say. The next second, Ethan appeared. He shoved Owen away from me, his voice icy. Get out. Don't you know trespassing is a crime? Owen laughed, tears streaming down his face. Trespassing? Ethan, you used to invite me over. Ethan turned and pulled me into his arms, ignoring him. In the end, security came and escorted Owen out. After watching such a brilliant farce, I felt bored. Ethan is acting fun? Ethan looked at me, silent. You let him in on purpose, didn't you? Just to show me that you punished him, that you don't care about him anymore? As I spoke, I found a bit of amusement in it, a small smile playing on my lips. So what did you want to hear from me? Wow, Ethan, you're so amazing. Thank you for getting revenge for me. I love you so much. I looked into Ethan's eyes, a bright smile on my face. I said it. Are you happy now? Ethan's arms dropped from around me. He lowered his head. Leo, don't be like this. I sighed and shook my head. See? I said exactly what you wanted to hear, but you're still not satisfied. Why are people never satisfied? With 1 month left, my hair had turned completely white. Even breathing was difficult. And Ethan, after tormenting himself for the better part of a year, finally broke down completely. In the afternoon, I was lying in a rocking chair, sunning myself. Ethan was kneeling, his head resting on my lap. Izzy had been tossed into some corner. His voice no longer had its old steady strength. Leo, is this the result of a failed mission? I forced a light tone. Yep. You killed me with your own hands. Happy? I didn't know. Leo, I didn't know it would be like this. I just wanted to. Cough, cough. I'm sorry. In the end, I still couldn't make it through that final year alone. I was bored. So bored I didn't see the point in living anymore. System detection. Host's will to live is 0. Initiate early termination of process. I opened my eyes and made one last request to Ethan. Bring Izzy here. Ethan didn't get up. He just nuzzled my knee again. Isn't it better if it's just me with you? I closed my eyes again, but the next second, I felt a weight on my lap. I opened my eyes. Izzy had jumped up on his own. He let out a mournful meow. Ethan had been about to shoo him away, but after hearing that sound, he slowly lowered his hand. I smiled, stroking the cat's back, and closed my eyes in peace. Yes, end it. Ethan seemed to realize what was happening. He slowly sank to his knees, his head bowed low. The husband of the Tang family heir passed away. He was 29 years old. His grieving spouse followed him in death the same day. Headquarters connecting. System 086 requests voluntary demotion and reassignment of host. Detected that selected host's consciousness has not been erased. Redeployment approved. Host name Leo. Binding system 0086. Binding successful. I didn't know how long I had been asleep. I opened my eyes again. A familiar hospital room, a familiar little cat. I smiled and picked up the now plump little cat, stroking him again and again. Hello, 086. It's 0086 now. And please just call me Izzy. Calling me by a number feels so cold. I'm not like those heartless guys at headquarters. Okay, Izzy. Ethan's POV, he was gone. Without a sound. I never got the chance to tell him I loved him. I never got the chance to properly apologize. The moment he left, I didn't cry. I just felt a part of my heart go missing. So I took a pair of scissors and plunged them into my chest to fill the hole. It seems the debt I owe him can only be repaid in the next life. Heaven had mercy on me. Even though my sins were unforgivable, it let me see him again in another world after I died. He was still so thin, but his face wore the smile I remembered, his life growing bright under the sun. My consciousness was about to fade when his cat suddenly jumped over. I knew it could see me, so I said to it, "Can you please tell him for me? I'm sorry. I love him." The cat flicked its tail and, unbelievably, spoke. "He doesn't need your love anymore." I stood there stunned for a moment, then broke into a smile. "That's good, then. That's good."